There's nobody on this planet that knows exactly where you are except you. And so it's like having access to your kind of best guide, mentor, friend, grandparent, whatever it might be, right, all rolled into one. And so you can have that conversation. Appreciation, if you think about it, is just a pure state of loving something. So for me, I always use the word appreciation. Any kind of suffering, if you think about it, is that we've let go of the tiller of the boat and we've given up control to somebody or something else. So, because one thing I've noticed is that if things go awry, what everybody needs straight away is some comfort.
Welcome to JOY², Live with Joy. This is the podcast where we get to explore the power of joy, purpose, passion, and fun, and how joy, when practiced intentionally, transforms how we live, work, and lead. I'm your host, Greg De Koker, and I believe that when you live with joy, everything gets better, and I mean everything. And this isn't just about feeling good. It's about unlocking joy as a resource, one that fuels better leadership, meaningful work, and thriving lives. Each week, we share the stories, the insights, and the sparks that ignite more joy, because joy is contagious, it's powerful, and it belongs to all of us. So lean in, stay curious, and let's create more joy together. This is JOY², brought to you by Essentia Group. Welcome back to the JOY² podcast, where we explore how we can live, work, and lead with more joy intentionally. I'm your host, Greg De Koker. As many of you know, this podcast is part of a bigger conversation I'm on to reduce what I've come to call a massive global joy deficit. And I'm having conversations with thoughtful leaders, creators, coaches, and humans who are exploring what joy really means in their lives and in the work they put out in the world. And today's conversation is an extra special one for me because my guest is also one of the founding sponsors of the JOY² podcast and someone whose work deeply aligns with the spirit of what we're building here. And she's also a wonderful human. Today, I'm joined by Theresa Sansome, or T as everyone calls her, founder of Future Self Now. T has been a coach for 27 years, and for the last 17 years, she's been developing and deepening a body of work devoted to helping people build a relationship with their own inner guidance. Her work is based on a deceptively simple but powerful idea that there is a version of you who already knows, a version of you who already carries the clarity, calm, and direction you're searching for. And rather than trying to chase some ideal version of ourselves in the future, T helps people meet that inner guide now and learn to stay in conversation with it. Through her work at Future Self Now, she's created a practice, a community, and a set of tools that help people reconnect with that deeper knowing so they can move forward in their lives with more clarity, ease, and joy. She lives in the Cotswolds in the UK with her husband, Guy, her partner of 40 years, and they have 2 children in their 20s. And one of the things I love about T's philosophy is that she believes joy isn't something you earn once you've figured everything out. She believes that joy is actually the starting point, and I couldn't agree more. And before we jump into the conversation, I just wanted to share a little personal context about how T and I met, how we got connected. So we were introduced by a mutual friend, Michelle Singh, who we both love and is one of both of our best friends. And Michelle thought there might be some beautiful synergies between the work we do and just between us and who we are as humans. I'm going to invite some non-humans to the show too eventually, but I'm right now I'm focusing on humans. And Michelle was absolutely right. So since that introduction, T and I have had some wonderful several conversations about the work we're doing, how we can collaborate, how we can support each other, refer each other, and really cheer each other on as we navigate our now intertwined journeys. So, and I've also had the opportunity to experience one of T's guided journeys called Future Self Now. And I have to say, it was one of the most profound and grounding experiences I've had in quite some time. Yeah, I can feel it right now, actually. As soon as I said that, I didn't feel it when I was thinking about it earlier, but now that I'm sharing it with you, I can really feel my body. I can feel the emotion, the joy kind of brings me right back to that. So, your guided journey really helped me to connect to my future self and my inner knowing in a way that stayed with me which I was surprised, to be honest. It's almost like, that session left me with these breadcrumbs, and sometimes it feels like a loaf of bread. Sometimes the signs are so obvious and they're so big, and signs that I can kind of follow back. Um, I can use to follow back to that place whenever I feel like I'm off course. And one of the things that came through very clearly for me in that amazing experience was this quiet sense of reassurance, that everything's going to be okay. That I'm going to be okay, and then my family's gonna be okay. Yeah, I remember, it's second. Yeah, I feel emotional right now just saying it. And it was emotional then. So yeah, thank you. Wow. And anyone, yeah, well, that's amazing. And anyone who can help people reconnect with that kind of inner knowing, that inner peace, and that inner freedom, that inner joy, right, is a real gem in my book. So T, welcome to the Joy² podcast.
Thank you, lovely. Yeah, that's amazing. It's wonderful to hear about that. It is a sticky
Mm,
experience, as I call
mhm,
it. It sticks around. And I say to people, once you've had that experience of connecting with your future self through the work that I do, the visualization and so on, it doesn't leave you. And I always say, well, the cat's out of the
mhm.
bag now, that is who you really are. That is your truth, and
Yeah.
you feel it. It's not like something people know that it's their knowing, right? So it's irrefutable. So yeah, it's a very special thing. Yeah. So it's lovely to hear your
I
voice.
agree, and it was like kind of like you said, it really is a feeling.
Yeah.
I think our bodies are incapable of lying, so when we kind of feel that, it's real, and that's what I felt. It wasn't, I think we can rationalize anything any way we want in our heads, right? But in our bodies, we're just not. That's why that gut, we talk about our gut, our intuition, that instinct, that inner knowing, it's there. It's like it's developing it. So amazing. Well, yeah, so great to have you here. And I thought I'd start off by just asking you, like, you're so busy, obviously building your community, and which is great to be part of, and also just with your life and everything you're working on, and with your clients. And yeah, why did you decide to say yes to becoming a founding sponsor of the podcast and being part of this Joy² journey? I'd love to start there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's sort of like you said earlier, it's a bit of a no-brainer because we're on the same path in terms of connecting with joy. And so there's a lot of synergy between you and I, in terms of what we're trying to achieve in the world, but also as human beings, I think, like knowing again that there's something more and that we can achieve by really connecting with that part of ourselves that is absolutely there, the joyful part, the one we knew maybe when we were 5, when the world was great, and everything was, new and wondrous, and, we definitely have that capability, and I feel that if we as humans all could reconnect with our joy again, then, there'll be a lot of healing that would go on. There would be a lot of problems that would be solved. It would just be a much kinder place, I reckon. So, yeah, it's very much a passion of mine. And when people connect with their future selves, they're connecting with that joy. Our future selves, the way I do it with people, it is unashamedly touching in with that part of you that is absolutely inside of joy, inside of wonder and awe and connection, to themselves, but to all that is, and so it's a very joyful state. So that's that's part of what I do is, like, I'm saying to people, Let's connect with that part of you," right? And that is your future self.
It's really cool because I hadn't thought of it this way before, but it just popped into my head that it's almost like you create a space where, we get to give ourselves permission, to kind of tap back into that. Because I was checking out my notes from the session, and it was beautiful. I mean, reading those again, and it's like those are things that I've thought of before, and I've thought of even more so since our session. But they're things that I felt were buried underneath all my judgments, my self doubts, my self criticism, and all that, all the yucky stuff, all the trying to be perfect, trying to please other people, whatever that is. And when I kind of really, when you help me get through, all that really to that core of who I am, I was like, wow, yeah, it felt like I can hear it a bit louder now, right? It's more part of me. It's easier to access, because I believe it too, right? It's like those things where I think, with everything, going on, in the last, little while, it's like with some heavy stuff going on, it's like it kind of gets buried underneath that, and it's easy. And it's like, what do we do to access it and create it? Which is kind of perfect because the next question, it's like, I want to find out, like, how do you cultivate joy? Like, how do you kind of create it on a daily basis? What are those things that you do to be intentional with it?
I think, yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount of presence that's needed, a certain amount of mindfulness, a certain amount of stopping and looking out the window and just noticing, that the birds are singing and that the and the sun is up, or that even that that it's raining, and just being in a state of appreciation, I is huge. So I think I am very conscious of that, and trying to be as present as possible and as appreciative as possible is where it starts. And but I do have practices like I journal every morning, and I talk to my future self there. Actually,
Oh,
yeah,
amazing.
because what people get is that you actually start having a relationship with this side of yourself, right? And that person is very, very wise and knows exactly where you are. There's nobody on this planet that knows exactly where you are except you. And so it's like having access to your kind of best guide, mentor, friend, grandparent, whatever it might be, right? All rolled into one. And so you can have that conversation. So she, my future self, in those moments, she will bring me back, right? And give me perspective and say, like, hang on, it's not as bad as you're thinking, right? Like this is you're, over dramatizing. um but so yeah, having that kind of a practice helps too. So, I'd say those were the main things on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love it. And I love even just noticing. I think the gratitude and the appreciation it's such a wonderful way to get back into that. And I got to say, I used to use gratitude against me. Again, when I'm really heavy, very self-critical, and I look back and wow, I was so hard on myself. I was just looking for reasons to, beat the crap out of myself, which isn't serving myself or anyone
Well,
for that
no,
matter.
and that's why I use the word appreciation, by the way, rather than gratitude, because as gratitude has a tinge of, like when we're told when we're children, you've got to be grateful, right? Like there's a tinge of there's somebody that we've got to thank, and like we are kind of subservient, tug the forelock. Oh, I'm so grateful. um, whereas appreciation, if you think about it, is just a pure state of loving something. So for me, I always use the word appreciation.
That does it does resonate lighter. You're right, because I would look at this gratitude list, my gratitude practice and 3 things, 5 things, 10, whatever I was writing down. And when I was in a darker space, it's like what I look at this list and I was like, oh my God, how could I feel so bad? Why do I feel so bad when I have all these amazing things? My wife, my kids, my parents, our cottage, our friends, these relationships and experiences, and it made me feel worse often. It didn't make me. It wasn't like I guess I wasn't appreciating it. I was using it as another reason to beat myself up, which is the exact opposite of
Right, yeah, because it's coming much more from a
what.
should, like, I should be grateful for those things,
Yeah,
right? Rather
right.
than just I
Yeah.
just absolutely appreciate it. So there is a
Yeah.
huge part of my work is just helping people curate their own energy, because, the path to joy is for us to feel that we have a sort of clean and clear channel, if you like, and that it isn't muddied by us beating ourselves up or resentment or anger or, busyness, or there's so much that can get in the way of our own energy. So we have to clear that as much as possible. And so it's a little thing, but it makes a difference to say, well, the energy of gratitude sometimes isn't as good as the energy of appreciation. So I'm going to choose appreciation. So it's just a sort of continual curating of your energy, always making sure that the quality of your energy is as clean, clear, bright as it can be, right? And obviously, we're not saints. We're not going to do that every day, but we can be mindful of it, right? And we can be,
We're
yeah,
humans.
we're human. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I think with appreciation too, I mean, they also when you appreciate something, it also it appreciates in value every time you're kind of giving it energy too, right? Which is, another beautiful way to look at it. And you talked about clearing the way, and I gotta say, like, I've been obsessed with like how people let things go. Because I gotta say, like, there's sometimes I feel I'm really good at it, and sometimes I feel like I really suck at it. I'm hanging on to. I'm like, oh my God, I was like from years ago. Why did that just pop into my head? I thought whether I forgave myself or forgave the other person or whatever that letting go process is. And I love it. Like anything you can share on like how do you kind of clear that path? So, how do you lighten the load? How do you get rid of some of those things?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, there's this, there is this idea that it lives in the body. So sometimes, I've just had an experience where something kind of resonated from my past, and despite myself, despite the fact that I know kind of what to do, right? It just went, "Ugh," you know. And so sometimes when something triggers something from the past, it's living in the body. It's like even though our heads know exactly what to do, and we can be all kind of professional about it, and and bring some enlightenment to it. It actually, if it's hit you in the heart because of some old trigger, then, you've got a lot more work to do. And so to be kind of really loving about that. So quite often with people we're sort of being with the child self and just being really kind to him or her, and really kind of investigating what those old patterns were and where they came from so that we can soothe them and clear them. But I also use future self to come in and help with that. So it's kinda cool. So sometimes we're working with the child self and her, you know, triggers, but the future self can come in and help as well. So it's then that child feels completely sort of surrounded by love and, by what becomes possible and what, really is who they really are, right? And so there's a lot of so some things aren't, you can't just sort of there's a journey sometimes, isn't there? Because if it lives in the body from old traumas and things, then yeah, there's some work to do. But we can get there, and there's a lot of healing that can happen. Just bring some attention to it, some intention to that, and bring a lot of kindness and love, and let ourselves off the hook. I think that's one of the biggest things is we just got to be a lot kinder to ourselves about these things and give ourselves time and space and not be demanding. And that's again what future self would do. She would always come in, or he would come in at these moments and go, like, "It's okay, like, you're working on it, it's good, let's do it together and we'll work this out and, there's no hurry, but don't beat yourself up. You're doing great. You're doing the best you can, and it's good." There's a lot of people say, there's a lot of reassurance that comes with knowing your future self, with your inner self, and uh and a lot of grounding and a lot of calm because it's like, yeah, it's okay. I'm doing good.
I love that. It's almost like, I mean, people have always said be your own best friend, but this is really, it's like a BFF is like your best future friend, but it's not in the future. I mean, it's like, we're reframing BFF, but it's like connecting with that person now. It's really connecting with that essence. Because I think some when people talk, I've heard people talk about, well, including myself, I would say, like years ago when I was like, wow, what does that even mean? And how do you do that? It seems so kind of, woo woo. But when you think about it, it's really tapping into who you are, who the essence of who you are, right? That future self that, we kind of come into this world without any of those layers. And then things happen and experiences happen and we make them mean certain things, like even if they're not even true. There are things that I've uncovered that it's like, oh my God, I literally something happened and I made it mean this, and that this isn't what happened. This bare bone fact is what happened, and I attached all this meaning to it. Then we're peeling back the layers and we're kind of getting back to that inner knowing, back to our future self, and really embracing it. And then maybe part of it too is not dismissing or diminishing the way we're feeling. I think also too, I had a kind of misperception about like anything other than joy is a negative feeling. I think growing up, and not because my parents said that, certainly not, or never really heard it directly, but I just always felt like, if you boil it down to like mad, sad, glad, and scared, kind of four basic emotions, I always thought if I wasn't glad, if I was mad, sad, or scared, I was weak. I was like, that's like now I'm not in control of my emotions, as opposed to just like realizing that, hey, those are my emotions and don't dismiss or diminish them. But maybe we can deal with them in a way and honor them in a way where we're not marinating in the negativity for extra long periods of time. Like I used to have pity parties for myself because I'm like, I'm in it. I'm just going to stay in it. I have no interest in getting out of it. But, it's when it lasts for a week and it lingers for a week or a month or longer, that's when it can really do some damage, as opposed to, now I'll give myself like, I'm going to grab a beer, a bag of chips, and watch a movie. And for 2 hours, I'm just going to feel sorry for
Yeah,
myself.
great. Yeah. Yes, you
And then I'll come out, I'll take responsibility for myself. But right now, I'm
well,
feeling sorry for
there's the
myself.
point. You use the right word there, right? Responsibility. For
Mm.
me, suffering comes from when we feel out of control. Any kind of suffering, if you think about it, is that we've let go of the tiller of the boat and we've given up control to somebody or something else. And so it's worth remembering that if I'm suffering, I've somehow given up control. So you can be in that state, right? So, but what I love about your example there was that you do actually take control in those moments. I have those too, right? In those moments where you just go, oh God, like everything just feels a little bit overwhelming and I'm feeling very vulnerable or whatever it might be. It's okay if you say, right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and get that bag of chips and I'm going to go and sit in front of Netflix and I'm going to eat a large bar of chocolate. That's a choice that you've just made, right? You could be very choiceful about that. So you have actually taken control, ironically, in that moment. So as long as you're in control of your own experience, if you know what I mean, like you're choosing it, in
Yeah.
other words,
Right. I'm choosing it.
then
I'm curating
yeah,
it.
then you're on
Yeah.
the right track. For me, like, of course, we're not going to walk around in joy all the time, but we can make it a touch point, as a North Star. So anything we're doing to be on that yellow brick road, if you like, is good. So, but like number one, be in control of your own experience. Like choose what you do, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. Well, and it's interesting because I was just thinking about that before you said that, where I'll have conversations before people come into one of my retreats. I'll do a pre-retreat coaching call and a prep call, and one of the things I'll say is like, you can choose now how your experience is going to be at the retreat. You can choose that this is going to transform your life in some way, or you can wait and you can see how the people are. See if you enjoy the conversation. See if you enjoy the activities. See if you enjoy the place. See if you enjoy the food. And you can be a victim of circumstance. Like maybe one of those things didn't meet your expectation. And so it can throw you off. Or you can just roll with it and you can come in and just know that it is going to be an amazing experience because, and I tell people, I said, I will be responsible to you, but I'm not responsible for your results or for your experience. And it took something to say that because people are spending money, they're spending time, they're spending energy. It's a big deal, right? They're spending 4 days away from their family, their friends, their business, their regular life. And to say that, took something, but I honestly believe that, and so it's a different way to look at it as opposed to kind of handing over your power to, to the place, the food, the other people, right? Just owning it. Hey, maybe that meal wasn't great, but that doesn't have to throw me off course. Or maybe that conversation wasn't my favorite. I didn't enjoy it as a thing. Maybe that outdoor activity, maybe the cold plunge didn't do it for me, or I didn't want to do it, whatever.
Yeah, and
But
but, like,
yeah, very
what do
cool.
I need? What do I want in that situation, right? Like, how do I take responsibility for that? If there was something that I really didn't like about my experience on that retreat, then it's up to me to do something about that. Either sort of mention it to Greg, in a nice way, or to decide something about that, like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna let it go," or "I'm gonna," "I can just choose not to do it," or, like, but it's again, it's just take charge of your own experience. Don't just sit back and sort of wait for things to come to you because not I'm not saying that in a sort of nanny kind of way. I'm just saying it in a way that, we wanna feel inside of our own sovereignty, inside of our own power. And so, and as I say, suffering comes from when we let go of control, right? Let go of the tiller and don't take responsibility for our own energy, our own experience.
I love it. And it kind of reminds me also too of like expectations versus agreements, and it's like, and I find that, you know, if you have an unspoken expectation of someone, you're just really setting yourself up for for failure potentially anyway, because even if they deliver on that expectation, if you have that in the future, you still don't know if they're gonna, because you haven't spoken about it out loud. And so intentionally we create community agreements at the retreat, and I tell people this is something you can do in your everything we're doing this weekend over these 4 days is stuff you can do in your in your regular life, in your in your regular life, and And I say, like, we get together, it's like, "Hey, listen, we all have expectations come in, and let's get them out on a piece of paper. Let's create some agreements. How do we wanna be with each other? This isn't my space. This is our space. We're here together, so how do we wanna be with each other? What's important? What about punctuality? What about confidentiality? What about, humor? What about alcohol?" Or like, where are people out on that, and certain things, like, and we'll literally, go through and we'll create agreements and we'll sign it. We've all agreed, and it just, it sets such a beautiful tone for the rest of the weekend. So I think, having that in one-on-one relationships and in our lives, if we did more of that, got those unspoken expectations out, gives people an opportunity to negotiate and come up with an agreement, way more powerful than sitting back hoping they live up to your expectations. We're not here to live up to other people's
No,
expectations,
I'm
but
hoping that
no.
people can read your mind, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly.
So yeah. Yeah, so there is a
Yeah.
certain amount
Yeah.
of, I'm in the process of writing a book called Selfish, because this is the thing that's most thrown at me is like, well, isn't me sort of like taking charge? Isn't that, and me doing life my way, isn't that selfish, right? So, and it's the number one thing I hear, right? And it certainly isn't, because if you're in charge of your own experience, and you are curating your energy to be the best it can be, then now you're sort of vibrating, if you like, in a certain way, and you're out in the world feeling good about yourself and feeling good about the people around you, and um and so now you are so much more generous, because that gives so much to people. People who walk around in a cloud, they suck the energy out of the room. But if we walk into a room inside of a well-curated energy and in charge of our own experience and intentional and choosing, and sometimes we choose the hard things, right? But we choose them. And then we have so much more to give.
Mm,
So
I
it's
love
not
that.
selfish. I
Yeah.
say it's an act of generosity.
And even I was listening to a video of Denzel Washington, and he said giving is the most selfish. He said selfish thing, which you kind of, I was like, I had to listen to it again. I was like, selfish. And then he explained similar to the way you just did, because the way it makes us feel, like when we're giving something to someone, right? We get so much out of it. He calls it selfish, which I thought is a really interesting way to kind of reframe it. Because usually people refer to that as being selfless, but I think there's something that can be, and it sounds like
Yeah.
you're
Well,
you're diving right into that
yeah. I
selfish.
mean, although I do come across a lot of people who are selfless and they're suffering.
Mm. Yeah, that's
Because
right. Yeah.
I've come up with this term called responsibilism. I can't even say it.
Mm.
Responsibilism. It's the addiction to being responsible. So
Oh,
that is a
uh,
thing too, is
that's
that I know a
interesting.
lot of people who've been through my work, who've been addicted to being responsible, doing all the caring of the elderly parents, of the family, of at work, and they're just leaving themselves completely out of the equation. So, there is another scenario, and there are a lot of people who live like that, very, very giving, loving people who've just completely lost themselves, and that's sad to see, because
I
they ultimately
It is.
explode, right? So, mm.
And I can relate. And I was grabbing these notes from our future self session, because my future self, what came out was, being of service to others when you're not serving yourself doesn't work. It can be disingenuous and fake. So, I mean, I'm raising my hand on, I can totally relate to everything you just shared. Yeah. So, um, so T, you spent almost 3 decades coaching people and guiding them through, personal transformation, inner transformation, connecting with their future selves. So, how do you create joy in your work, like for your clients and for the people that you serve?
Well, the joy selfishly for me is meeting other people's future selves, right? I mean, honestly, I feel like I am so lucky, because it is such an amazing experience and so deep, as you were saying, right? And there's nearly always tears, because it's been so long since somebody's really connected with that side of themselves. And it's very profound, and I get to witness that, and I get to help people with that, so I just feel incredibly joyful about that. I mean, I I never will stop working, because, that's just wonderful to be there for with people. And so I've met so many people's future selves, and they're all absolutely marvelous, of course. So that's the joy for me. And I get a lot of joy from being with people and connecting and, getting to know people. And it's a real privilege when some people I work with for years, and that's just beautiful too. So yeah, there's a lot of joy in my work. And I've just recently now, because I've got various different, sort of outlets for what I do, but I've now created a community, an ecosystem around the whole future self, and all of and sort of getting all my clients and people and new people as well to come in into that. And so now everybody's sort of gathering in one place. That's giving me a lot of joy too, because just to sit around in community is wonderful too. So yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit more about that because I mean it is wonderful, and you've also created a way to scale joy in a way, and I don't mean scale in a totally capitalistic way. I mean it in a way that you're in a ripple effect way where you can help even more people connect with their future selves. So yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, tell us about your community.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd
So
love to hear more about
yes,
that.
thank you. So yeah, I'm very excited because I created Future Self now like 17 years ago. And right from the get-go, I knew that my future self had an online community, but I had no idea how to do that. And so that was just sort of, just a foreign language, for me. But now here we are. Just literally 2, 3 weeks ago, I launched the new hub, the community hub, and I've made it, incredibly sort of low entry, low barrier to entry, because really, for me, again, the joy is just having everybody together. And that the wonderful thing about it is that it's a place where everybody who's met their future self will be together, and they can talk to each other and encourage each other. And it's just wonderful to see the magic that happens in between things. And so people can come on, and if you haven't met your future self yet through what I do, then you can come on, and there is a little course you can do, and you can do the visualization through that little course. And so now everybody on there will have that opportunity to meet their future selves. And then I run live calls every 2 weeks, um, for free, so that everybody gets to you can re-meet your future self as many times as you like, because your future self will move about. They'll show you different things at different times depending on what's on for you in your life at that very moment. So people come back and back and back because they love to have that reconnection with their future selves and just get that loving, wise presence back into their bones, because it is a real kind of feeling state. And so, yeah, for me, that's the most important thing. The most important thing is that we're all together, we're all speaking the same language. And like you say, the ripple effect of that when everybody congregates is so much bigger. So that's very exciting.
Oh, it's almost like I guess it's like rereading a chapter, rereading a book, because you're a different person when you reread it because you've had different conversations, experiences, and everything. Same with your future self, right? Like we did ours like, months ago, maybe 6 months ago, I think. And so, yeah, that's a great idea. It's a great reminder to, yeah, meet my future self
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah. And honestly,
My future self is even nicer and even
yeah.
better than it was
I
last
just
time,
think
if
it's
that's
clearer
possible.
and stronger, and I've seen my future self, in Hong Kong. I've seen her on a stage. I've seen her in her garden. I've seen her going for a walk. I've seen her all over the place. I've seen her on top of the roof because she wanted to show me the perspective of things, right? Like, she's often taken me to very high places because your future self can take you flying if she wants to, because sometimes it comes across metaphorically, right? What she wants or he wants to say to you, right? So it's fun, because you get to see them, but the core stuff is the same always.
I love that. It's almost like, when before the retreats, I ask people about if they have a dream, or a big goal. And so to hear people share their dream, just like with you, when they're sharing their future selves, it's such a
Yeah.
gift and it really is beautiful. And it's great too, because it probably gives you an opportunity that when they're not being their future self, now that you've known that, you have an incredible way to support them and lift them up, bring them up, call them up. I love calling people
Yeah.
up. Way better energy than calling people out,
Oh
right?
god, yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, I would often say, "What would your future self say to you now? What would your
yeah, bring it
future
back to
self
that.
do now?" And if they can't
Yeah.
access in the moment, we might just then, close our eyes and I take them into a sort of meditative state and we go and meet him or her to get the gen. But like often people can tune into that pretty quickly because it's been such a felt experience. This isn't a mind experience. This is a felt experience. It's a knowing experience. It's sticky. And so you can go, yeah, what would my future self do now? Oh yeah, they would probably just laugh it off, right? And they would just say, it's okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
They wouldn't make a big deal about it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I used to always say, "Life is as simple or as complicated as you make it," and I believe that, but I was saying it, and I was so disconnected from it. They were just words, like, whatever. Maybe it made me sound philosophical or wise or whatever. But then I realized, like, how much I wasn't doing that in my own life, how much I was complicating it versus simplifying it. I'm like,
Oh,
"Yeah,
so
okay.
he's
I'm not gonna keep saying
yeah,
that
yeah.
unless I'm doing it," which is great. So what and we talked a lot about cultivating joy and creating joy and accessing your future self. What about what tends to block joy for you kind of personally and professionally? What gets in the way of joy?
Um, Almost always when I'm worrying about somebody else or something else outside of myself. So I've
Okay.
left myself behind and I'm gone over there and I'm
Mm,
worrying about
right.
that. So when I do a lot of one-on-one coaching as well as group coaching. 9 times out of 10, that's what's happened is that somebody's got involved in something else or somebody else outside of themselves and they've forgot to bring it back to themselves. And so the exercise is usually to bring it back to yourself. And that's why future self is so great because it's an instant bringing it back to yourself and your wisdom and your knowing rather than tangling up with somebody else's stuff. So that's what I would say was the number one blocker.
And then do you have any other I know your go-to, which I love, and I don't want to take you off the future self now, but are there other things that you can kind of suggest, like, when you're blocked, like, are there other things that you can do? I know that's kind of your number one tool. And then what are some of the other tools that you use to kind of remove those things that are blocking joy from you?
Go, well, yes, I mean, it does all involve going back to myself, so just some time and space, right? Like, go and, sit with myself or go for a walk or journal, talk it through on paper, uh, and and also, like, be intentional about reframing it. Again, that's what I find myself doing a lot with people is, like, what's another picture you can put around this? It's a bit like what you were saying earlier. It's like you suddenly realize, "Oh, that thing happened, and I just layered all sorts of interpretations on it." But there's always another frame you can put around that picture. Have you just got the sort of simple black frame, or could you put a gilded frame around it? There's always another way of looking at these things, but it takes a bit. I do normally have to remove myself and have a word with myself, you know, uh, on paper or just have time and space. And sometimes it is to flop on the sofa and watch some Netflix if it's really bad. So I um I have a thing that I talk about, which is the comfort, nurture, action cycle. So because one thing I've noticed is that if things go awry, what everybody needs straight away is some comfort. And so allow yourself that, right? Allow yourself to go and just blob and watch the telly and eat the crap. That gives you some comfort in the moment. And then once you've allowed yourself to do that, then you'll probably you'll move into the nurture part of that cycle. And that will be a little bit more active. You won't be so blobby. You will go and make yourself a soup or you'll go for a walk or you'll have a shower and you'll clean out a cupboard or something. Do you know what I mean? Like so it'll be nurturing, but it won't be necessarily you won't be fully there yet, but you're moving around the cycle. And then once you've allowed yourself to do that, then what I find is that very naturally you get into action without you having to force yourself. You're not sort of like making yourself do something. You're not going, come on, snap out of it. No, you've allowed yourself the comfort. You've allowed that to morph into nurture. And then very naturally, all by itself, it'll turn into action. So I think if we
Because trying to jump right into it would be difficult,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, and you're judging yourself, you're, oh, I should do this, I should do that, as opposed
Yeah.
to just like, I just need something to feel a little bit better right now to create some kind of peace of mind, some kind of opening,
Yeah.
where you're moving gently through that
Exactly.
path to
And
action.
again, being
Yeah, I love
kind
it.
to yourself, like letting yourself off the hook, just, we're all human, as you say, right? Like this is natural and
That's
normal.
right.
And actually,
Yeah,
think of all the good stuff that's happened. They've usually happened coming out of something that didn't work.
that's right. The silver lining, the blessing in disguise, whatever, there's lots of different
Yeah,
terms
the
for it.
trajectory I talk about, you got a bow and arrow, right? And when you pull it back, it's actually it's under tension and it feels, can feel strong. But when you're finally ready to let go, poof, you've created so much momentum by pulling back that you create all the momentum to go forward. So these things, it's not coincidental. That's how this happens. Life is a life of contrasts, night and day and, breathing in, breathing out so and so on. So, that's how we live our lives. We will be cycling through things. We will be going through the comfort, nurture, action cycle. We will have down times, we will have up times, but we can't have the up times unless we have the down times. So they live together. So if we're just really kind to ourselves about, oh, here I go, I'm just going into the dip and that's okay. And I'll just nurture myself through that and comfort myself through that. And then I'll know when to act on the other side. We can just really kind of allow for all of that, I feel.
I love it. No, that's very good. Yeah, I think being kind to ourselves, I mean, it's like, we can't give away what we don't have. I mean, the kinder we are to ourselves, I mean, I think the kinder we can be to other people, right? And that joy is contagious, if we're taking care and taking responsibility and being intentional with joy, not just having it as being a reward or a result, but really leading with it, living with it, being with it, as a starting point. I think you even said that, right? And
Yeah.
so you had shared something, yeah, make it a starting point, not the
Make
end.
it your North
So make it the
Star, but
journey.
do
Yeah,
not use it as a stick to beat yourself up with either, though. When you're not feeling joy, doesn't mean you failed, like you were saying earlier, right? It just means that you've kind of strayed off the path. I talk about this actually, um, in I have a thing called the Future Self Now playbook, little plug there.
right.
But in that, there is
Yeah,
a,
I have it. I
oh, yeah,
bought it.
yeah,
Amazon.
yeah, Amazon, yeah. But in that, I talk about the geese, right? Like geese know exactly where to come back to after they've flown away, in the summer and the winter. They know where they're going. And how do they know? Well, they must have some kind of inner GPS that tells them that if the weather hits, that they've gone off track and they must get back on track. Well, geese aren't going, "Oh, you idiot." You got blown off track by the weather, right? If they did, they probably would carry on being off track because they were unconscious. They were not bringing consciousness to the fact that they just need to get back on track. So I think if we do have an inner GPS that tells us whether we're on track or off track, and that's our feelings, our emotions. So if we're feeling off, tend to that and say, okay, I'm off track, like the goose, and all I've got to do is just find ways of bringing myself on track, and that might be comfort right now, or that might be nurture right now. But I need to find a way, or just bringing some intentionality to things, or bringing some appreciation to things. What do I need to do to get back on track? Don't beat yourself up because that's just part of what happens. It's just weather.
Right.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, it made me think of God, what just popped into my head, being intentional with yeah, being intentional with joy. There was something in there that just triggered God, something else, another little thought. Anyway, I'll move on. I'll move on to that one. I
yeah.
can't.
Probably
Maybe it'll come up as
it'll
we
probably
go.
ping back in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think, but taking responsibility for it, right? And I think really not not having it just be that end result or that reward, having it be so evasive or having it be, and also not, oh, here it is, not beating ourselves up for an awareness. Like when we realize something that, oh, maybe we did something or said something, or maybe we're not feeling great, we come to that awareness, not beating ourselves up for feeling that way or thinking that way, but acknowledging like, wow, luckily I did. Now I can do something with it. Because I think often I would realize something like, oh, I could have said that better. I
Mm,
didn't mean to hurt their feelings. Maybe there was some misdirected frustration or anger that came out of my part. And, really, I mean, aside from apologizing, like, which I would do, it's like I would still beat myself up. I still wouldn't like, oh, why did I do that? As opposed to just like, you know what, I made a mistake. I'm human. I learned from it. I apologized. It wasn't, it, they, I was clear to them. It had nothing to do with them. It was all me.
mhm,
But then being able to let it go,
mm,
and being able just to use it as a way to learn, not as another stick to beat ourselves
definitely.
up. So yeah, that's okay. That's what popped into my head,
Mm,
which is huge.
definitely.
So I'd love for you to share a moment, in your life where you just experienced kind of full body, undeniable joy. So,
Yeah, it was like I was thinking
anything.
about this. I think I was telling you about the fact that, we adopted our 2 children and, obviously that was a massive joy and that came on hot on the heels of the pain of not being able to have children. And so, again, just that contrast. But when I was thinking about it today, I was thinking, that unbridled joy, I would say what instantly popped into my head was a moment when we were in Greece and my kids were, post 18 anyway. They were just to qualify because we were sat at a bar and we were together and it's a sunny day and um I just love our family, it just brings me so much joy and because it was all so intentional as well because of adoption and everything and I think we all just feel incredibly grateful for each other and so it's one of those moments where you feel it, but you don't necessarily share it at the time. I'm just sitting there in the sunshine with my family, with Guy and Julia and Sasha, and just thinking, wow, it doesn't get much better than this. So it was a quiet one, but it's one just, you just like your whole body is sort of taken over with it. Like I'm sure you.
And to be able to have that too, and I'm sure you've experienced it multiple times, with your family because they light you up, right? Yeah. So it's wonderful. And I think also too, being really clear about what are those things that light us up and that bring us joy and being intentional with it, spending more time with family, friends, whatever that might be, and being clear about what are those things that block joy, like we talked about earlier, too, and then what can you do to remove it? Because I think often, and I know I went through this time where I thought those sometimes the thoughts that were popping into my head were real. And it honestly took me a long time to kind of figure out, no, those are just kind of thoughts popping in. That could be, the inner critic, just pounding away at me and me taking it on as real. And so there is a huge difference between having thoughts and thinking and really applying that kind of intellectual capacity and really being clear about the things that we've been talking about. I think again, it helps us to keep that power. And I mean that in a positive way with ourselves, like our own power, not to give it away, not to give our own joy
Yeah.
away. So
Definitely.
for
I've
sure.
come up with an acronym which I love, which always makes me laugh because it sounds so clunky, but the acronym is OMOT, OMOT.
Okay.
But
I haven't heard this
yeah, no,
one,
it's well,
but I
it's
like.
on my own terms. Because I was saying, that suffering comes from when we feel that we've let go of the tiller and we're not no longer in control of the situation. If we remind ourselves OMOT, on my own terms, then we can do life on our own terms. And I think, a lot of it's about giving, that sounds again selfish, right? So, but it's not. And you'll notice that when you are doing things on your own terms, then life gets a lot more joyful. I noticed that, right? Because when I do life on my own terms, then I would allow myself to be naughty every now and again. Naughty
That's
is
so
such a
good.
great joyful
Ah,
state, isn't it?
yeah, I know.
When I first discovered that I could go to the movies in the middle of the day by myself, I was in
Yeah,
my
right.
30s and I couldn't believe how naughty I felt because I was actually at work as well. I was at work and I did it. But oh my God,
Oh,
the
it's so
joy
good.
of that. And I went to see Toy Story, I remember,
Yeah.
so that just
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's a great movie.
but yeah, so when you're doing, when you can ask yourself, What's what do I want to do here, right? Like, what's my version of this? What would light me up now? Like, if I wasn't depending on what other people thought of me or what I think I should be doing, if I was doing it on my own terms, then people would play a lot more, right? They would dance a lot more. They would, you know, they would stop and let themselves rest or play or whatever, So it's I think we all need to be doing OMOT.
The thing that popped into my head was like, "Oh, mother." It's like short form for "Oh, mother." So maybe we can add the
Yeah,
HER. There's something
exactly.
else there.
Yeah,
Maybe
on my
there's
own
an
terms. So you
additional,
have to work out what that is, yeah.
eating exceptional
Yes.
results,
Oh, that's
or,
very
or
good.
I don't know, or
Yeah, I like it.
there could be energy in
Yeah.
there, or reward, or having exceptional. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
so
I mean, it's
good.
worth sitting
Well,
around and just sort of saying, what does light me up, right? What are my things, right?
yeah.
And like you said, right, this is wonderful that you brought that up today, right? It's like, where is it? Where is the joy? But it's going to be different for absolutely everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love it. No, it's such a, and I think, just bringing more awareness, to it as well, just to kind of, because joy's contagious, right? And it's like, I remember walking around the block, I've shared this a couple of times, and kind of, there were several people that passed by me, and they were smiling at me, and I was like, oh my God, that's like, and I was like, is my hair weird, or is my hat on, or did I spill something on my, like, I just thought, like, why are they smiling at me? It was just, I had an experience like that before, like, consistently, and then I realized that I was smiling. I was thinking about something, and I was so happy that I didn't even realize I had this huge grin on my face, and people were reacting to my smile. So it was interesting. So I think, the more we can kinda do that, and the more we can share, and the more we could bring each other up, lift each other up, call each other up, help each other up, I think there's no downside to more joy in the
No,
world,
no,
right? There is no downside.
no. Yeah, and I
Oh, man.
think I love that, and one thing I'm learning recently is like so much happens in community. So where are your communities? Where are your people? Where are the people that are having fun doing the things that you love doing and that you can join in with, or, the people having the conversations that you love to chew on and, like get into community like that. But, I belong to so many different groups and stuff. And but it's just delightful because we all feed off each other's energy, and of course, by the end of the call, we're all, you know, in a great place, or the end of the meet. So it's community's really where it's out as well, like, I think that's very vital piece.
I love that. And it kind of brings me to, like, we have a community of listeners. And for anyone listening, what do you hope people kind of walk away with after hearing the conversation today? What do you hope they feel?
I hope they feel empowered to find all of this within themselves, that with a bit of investigation, they can allow themselves to find what sparks joy for them and really give themselves permission to go for that, because it's not selfish. It really gives us so much to the world if we all, you know, if we all walked around like that, taking care of our own energies in those ways that you're very much allowed to. We want you to. We want you to be the best you can be. The best you can be is just like the most delighted, the most in love with life, right? And then
And
now,
in love with yourself,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And in love with yourself.
yeah.
Yeah. People don't ever say that. People feel a little bit weird, but I think that's part of
Well,
it.
no, that's true. It's like,
Mhm.
that you know yourself to be a sort of flawed human being, but aren't we all, right? And that um
That's right.
and just sort of bringing some, yeah, some humor to that, and to some there was this
Mm.
clown once called Wavy Gravy, and apparently he said we're all just bozos on the bus. And
Oh, man. I
I
love
love
that.
that,
That's
right?
perfect.
We're all getting it. We're none of us
Yeah. We're
getting
all
it
just
right.
goofballs,
Yeah,
right?
we're all just goofball. I mean,
Trying to figure things out, trying to,
yeah,
live a great life, trying to make a
yeah.
difference, trying to learn and grow.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
I love it.
So, live just
So good.
let yourself off the hook, have a and just
Yeah.
enjoy. That's what we're here for, is to enjoy, and then to spread that
Enjoy.
love and joy. Yeah.
Well, T, for anyone that wants to get a hold of you, like connect with you, join your community, check out your Future Self Now program, all the above. So futureselfnow.com is the place to
Yeah.
go. And I'll put the link in as
Yeah.
well, too, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
awesome.
pretty simple. And you can, from that place, you can book a discovery call with me, to just a 30-minute, chat, and see if you'd like to work with me one on one. But also on that site, you can join the community. It really doesn't. It's very low bar to entry, and but it's a great space, and you'll get to. That's where you'll get to do the course, and and come to the live calls every 2 weeks if you want to. And all of that is
Beautiful.
included. So yeah, I'd love to welcome as many people as possible to that. Yeah.
Yeah, come join T and me there. So it's not, I was gonna say come to the dark side, but it's actually the opposite of the dark side. It's come to the light side, come to the fun side, come to the joy side. Oh, it's been so good. Well, T, this has been such a beautiful and inspiring conversation, joyful conversation as always. Like it's so great to be in your energy. I just love the way that you think and who you are. And how you help people, like including me, reconnect like with their inner knowing, their future self. It's just also deeply aligned with everything that we're doing here and everything I'm doing around JOY² and the movement and just helping people to live, work, and lead, with more joy intentionally. So, and I want to thank you for being a founding sponsor as well, a collaborator, friend, fellow explorer on this journey together. And I just appreciate who you are and everything that you do. And I'm really grateful that we're friends, and I appreciate you.
Yes,
It's been a
appreciate.
pleasure to have you
Oh,
here.
it's been wonderful, and thank you for your energy and all you're doing because it's massive. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. I love being part of your journey, and yeah, and really really appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks, T. And yeah, if something T shared today resonated with you, please do something with it. Like take imperfect and inspired action. Be kind to yourself, trust yourself, connect with your future self. Remember who you are. You have everything you need inside you. So we'll see you next time on JOY². Live with joy. And in the meantime, keep living, working, and leading with more joy. With joy as the starting point versus the result or the reward. Thanks for joining us today. Cheers. Thanks for spending this time with us on JOY², where joy multiplies and everything gets better. Remember, joy isn't just something you feel, it's something you create and it's something you pass on. If this conversation sparks something in you, share it because joy is contagious. What we're building here is bigger than a podcast. It's a reminder and a movement that how we live, work, and lead truly matters. Until next time, live with joy, lead with purpose, and never forget to have fun. Keep choosing joy squared. And if you're enjoying the journey, we'd be grateful if you subscribe, like, and share JOY² so the ripple keeps spreading.